board wrapper and HTML template variables to select different layouts within the same template. So things like creating custom mini profiles that change according to the user group, or forums that change according to the category that they're in or the forum ID number. You can use it for main profiles to show different things for IC and OOC accounts. There's so many different things that you can do with it, as well as show and hiding things for different types of members. So members with ModCP access, members without it, all that sort of stuff. It's actually fairly simple. But before we get started, let's go for a tour of the demonstration. So as you can see up here, we've got a block here. They're just 4 plain divs. We've got this one that's going to show for group 1, this one that's going to show for group 2, this middle one here is going to show for group 2 and 3, and this bottom one we're going to show for admins and mods only. There's a couple of things in here that we'll demonstrate as well. So there are 2 different ways that you can go about switching your layouts according to variables. One is you can create a completely separate layout. This is what we've done here. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 blocks, and you can think of each of those blocks as a different layout. And the other approach is to show and hide things within one layout according to who is viewing it. And that's what we're going to demonstrate here. So while we've got 4 separate layouts, we're going to be using layout 3 here to demonstrate how you can show and hide different elements inside the layout. And both approaches are fantastic. It depends on what you're trying to achieve. So if you're trying to achieve 2 completely different looks, you would go for different containers and separate layouts within that section. If it's just small changes and little bits that you need to hide, like one profile field that you don't want to show for a particular member group, you'd go with this approach. So let's go through the HTML. We've got the example wrapper class, which wraps around all of this. So that is this bit here. There it is. So that's your example wrapper. And then we've got layout block 1, layout block 2, layout block 3 is there. And we'll drop him open. Then we've got inner right, which is here. So these are these 2 spans here. We've got a line here called inner flex, which is a flex div. Then we've got flex right and flex right 2. Then we've got another inner right, and a layout block down the bottom. So it's a pretty simple layout overall. In the CSS, again, it's fairly simple, just some background colors and a bit of positioning. Nothing really exciting in here, except for that inner flex, which is along here, is set to flex, obviously. And flex right, which is this first one, is set to order 1. And flex 2, which is the second one, is set to order 2. And there's a reason for that, but we'll get into that later. So, in order to change based on the variable, we need to include the variable. So what I would advise is, especially if you're going for a separate layouts approach, is to wrap it all in one wrapper. And that's what we've done here. So next to our general wrapper class, we're going to add another class, and we're going to call that group dash, and we're going to call it X for the minute. When you take this over to Jcink, you'll want a variable in there. And the variable that you want will depend on which effect you want to achieve. So if we're looking at a main profile element, a lot of the time you'll want the group ID, and that's going to give you the numerical value of the group that that account belongs to. So within the main profile template, that pertains to that account that you are viewing. Not the person who's viewing the account, but the account that is being viewed. There is a difference. and it confuses me a lot, especially when I started. I was like, because they're called the same thing, it took a while for me to get my head around the idea of logged in member group versus viewed member group. One of those simple things that sort of escaped me for a while. Another one that you might find yourself using a bit is in mini profiles. So again, if you want to make changes based on the mini profile according to who it belongs to, you would be looking at GID again. So when used inside that template, it is the one that's being viewed, not the group ID of the person viewing it. Another one that you might find yourself using is category headers. So this one, because over here we're sort of working on how to do it based on groups. So the demonstration is sort of more set up for a mini profile sort of main profile sort of layout, but this is also really useful in terms of styling your forum rows and your topic rows and all that sort of stuff according to the space where they are in your index or what forum they belong to. So if you want to change them according to the category that they're in, the cat ID number is there. And if you want to change them, your forum rows according to the forum number that they are, forum ID is there. The other one is topic rows. So that's this line here where the topic name, last poster and all of that appears. If you want that to look different per forum, you can actually create separate skins per forum, which is one way to go about it. Or you can use forum ID. No, forum ID is not in there. I thought it was. My bad. I actually did think that was in there. Oh no, there it is. It's in topic list headers. My bad. So forum ID in topic list headers, and that will apply it to that container, and you'll be able to style your forum rows separately compared to other forum rows, but without having to change the skin. Other ones that you might find useful is in the global variables. So these are things that belong to the person who is logged in, not the one being viewed, the person that is logged in. So member variables such as the name, the ID number of that particular user, whether they've got messages, that's one that can be very useful. So if you want to show or hide something based on whether that person has messages to read, or whether they've got new alerts to view, that's another good one that you can use. You can also use custom fields and show and hide things based on that. But the one that you'll find yourself using more often than not is GID. So group ID, when it's used as a global variable in the board wrapper, is for the person that is logged in. When it's used inside a template, such as main profile or mini profile, it is for the profile that is being viewed. Watch me get it wrong every single time. Alrighty, so now that we've been through that, we're going to call that group X, but in practice what we would do is we would grab one of these, and I'll show you how it should look in Jcink. So we just literally just grab that, and where that X is, replace that. But that's not going to work for us in CodePen, so we're just going to change that back to X for the moment. Alrighty, so the next thing that we need to do is we need to differentiate these. And the best way to do it is by giving it another class name that sort of relates to it. So this is layout block, and we'll call it show1, because it's going to show for group 1, but not 2 and not 3. This one we'll call show2, because it's going to show for group 2, but not 1 and not group 3. This one we'll call show to 3. You can see where I'm going with this. And that will show for group 2 and 3, but not group 1. We'll just leave all of this inside stuff for the moment. We're just going to focus on these big divs. And this one we're going to call show staff. Alright, that's cool. That seems easy, right? Okay, cool. That's all of the, well, most of the HTML done. So the next thing that we need to do is we need to tell it how those divs should behave when they're confronted with a particular setup. So watch me break everything. Alright, so what we want is we want group -1 show 1 display initial. Aha. And that's going to say, okay, if group 1 is up here, then this div we want to see. But if group 2 is the one that we see is up here, display none. And we want to repeat the same for group 3. If my fingers will work. They really won't. Okay, so currently we've got it set to group X, but let's see what happens when we change it to group 2. It's gone! Hooray! It worked. After the couple of mess-ups that I've had in the last live demonstrations, I'm just not game to assume that what I'm doing is going to work. Alright, so theoretically, when we change this to 1, and it refreshes, that shows for group 1. So it was actually set to display block. So set that back. Alright. So congratulations to me who didn't mess that up. Now we need to set up, so we're just going to change that back to group X while we move on to layout block show 2. So it's just the same thing. So group 2 show to display block. Group 1 show to display none. And of course, because we don't want it to show for group 3 either, group 3 show 2. We can just add that in there. And save that. And now when we change this to group 2, group 1 should disappear, but that shows as group 2. And if we change it to group 3, group 1 appears. Now why is that? Because I didn't put that there. There we go. We knew I was going to make a big mistake at some point. Alright, we'll change that back to group X so that we can see everything again. Now we're going to work on on layout 3. So this is a slightly different situation because we've got 2 that we want to display and 1 that we want to hide. So it's group 2 show 2 3, group 3 show 2 3, display block, cool, group 1 show 2 3, we want display none. Alright, so now when we hit group 1, those 2 middle ones should disappear. Perfect. Group 2, group 2, group 2, 3, and group 3 should just show that one and the bottom one for the minute. Excellent. Everything works as planned. So the next thing we want to do is we want to toggle this for people who have staff access only. And there are two, two variables for that. And you'll find them in the board wrappers advanced variables. And they are under admin and moderator variables. And these are the four that we've got. So ModCP issues is a counter that will tell you how many warnings, reports, whatever are currently waiting to be dealt with in the ModCP. And you could use this to change something to bright flashing red if there's more than one. This will check if the group that the logged in member belongs to is a super moderator. This will check if the logged in member is a moderator. And this will check if the logged in member can access the CP. So if you want to cover all of your staff, isMod is your one, because even your lowest staff members can access the ModCP. If you want to show and hide something based on whether someone has admin access or not, you'd use access CP. But in this case, we would use isMod. So we're going to go with mod access X. For the same reason we've got group X, because in CodePen it's not going to work for us as well. And this particular div is called show staff. Now what happens here is if the user does have access, it turns up 1. If they don't, it turns up 0. So show staff mod access show staff 1 display block mod access, helps if I can spell, show staff O display none. Alrighty, so if we're looking at people who have no admin access, it should, what have I mucked up this time? Right. These need to be over here, because we're adding the variable to mod access, not to show staff. These wouldn't be my tutorials if I didn't fail them every time. Alright. So mod access o.showStaff, so we've got the variable there, and then the container that we're trying to control. Mod access 1 should show it. Beautiful. So by manipulating these variables, we can now see how changing those numbers can completely change what displays. So, you know, say you were group 3 and you didn't have mod access, this is what you would see. If you were group 1 and you did have mod access, this is what you would see. We'll just change those back to X for the minute. So that's how you can get 4 different divs to display determined by what group ID you're dealing with. So what about elements inside those particular divs? It's exactly the same. This is where it gets a little bit ridiculous. So again, we want show 2, because that's only going to show for group 2. Show 3, because we only want that to show for group 3. We want show 2 3 for group 2 and 3. Show 2 3 access. What did I call it? Mod access. No, hang on. I'm going to get this wrong every time. Show staff. So we want that one to show for anyone with ModApp ACP access, and show admins. We're going to add another one there. Alrighty. So as you can guess, we need to add another class up the top called show admins. So ACP access X. Alrighty. So if we try changing around the group numbers, these should work. Because we've already just told it that some things should change. Yep. So we've got show to set up. So things that are supposed to show for group 1 and group 2, but not group 3. But we haven't actually defined group 2 yet properly. Alright. So this will only show for group 2, this will show for group 3, this line shows for group 2 and 3, this will show for ModCP access, this will show for ACP access. So we want things, we need to set up show 3. So group 3, show 3, display block. Group 1 dot show 3, display none, and we'll add group 2 in there as well. We're just going to change mod access to none so that clears those away so I don't have to look at them for the minute. So that one's going to stay because we actually haven't defined that one yet. And we want to look at stuff for group 3. So you can see that shows for group 2 and 3, that shows for group 3, this is supposed to show for group 2 and 3 as well, and ACP access. Excellent. Group 1. Are we only seeing what we want to see? Perfect. Group 2. Are we only seeing what we want to see? Group 2 and 3, this only shows for group 2, this shows for group 2 and 3, and this will only show for ACP access, which is undefined yet. Perfect. That's exactly what we wanted to see. It always takes a bit of fiddling, and always, 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 always test your work. Otherwise you'll end up like me. So, going back to this G-access CP is the one that you would use here. So ACP access dash that variable, and that will give you 1 if they can access it and 0 if they can't. So ACP access dash 0 in CSS dot show staff display none. ACP access, why can I never get that second S in access? Dash 1 dot show staff display block. And if we go up here and we change this to 0, so mocking up as if we wouldn't have ACP access, why didn't that work? Because that's not under show staff, is it? It's show admins. because we're hiding it from admins but not from mods. So this is like we were, if you're a mod yes, admin no, this is what you would see. So you can see the admin and mods block, you can see this, but you can't see this line here, because that's only for people with ACP access. I hope it's useful seeing me figure out my own mistakes as I go. Please let me know if it is. Alright, so the last thing I want to show you is something that I think is really cool, but is something that you can do with Flex, and that's changing the Flex order based on the container. So what we want to do is we're going to change this, we're just going to change these to 0 so that we aren't seeing those. And we're going to change that to group 2, just to clear a bit of this out of the way. Because what we want to do is if we're currently logged into group 3, or we're viewing something that belongs to a group 3 member, we want this to jump over here and this to jump over here. And we can do that because this is in a flex. And in a flex div, you can actually tell it where those particular divs are supposed to go. So we've got them wrapped in inner flex, which is just display flex. Flex right, which is this left block here, is set to order 1. And flex 2 is set to order 2. So 1, then 2. But if we make it say group -3 flex right, so we're saying if up the top here it says group 3, then this particular flex right, we're going to do this instead, and we're going to go order 2 and group -3 flex right 2 order 1. So flex right is normally in position 1, but if group 3 is at the top of the document, we're going to send it to 2. And flex right 2 is normally second, but again, if we've got group 3 up there, it's going to be put first. So let's watch the magic happen. There we go. So as you can see, I didn't copy and paste anything. It's the same HTML. It's just got this CSS override for group 3 based on the flex order. And that's a really simple way to shift things around and reorder them. It's really useful for custom profile fields in the UCP. You can actually use that to shift them around. I've done that a few times. Yeah, and as you can see, we've gone from a very complicated, well, not very complicated, but 4 separate layouts to show, dependent on what group we've got sitting here, whether they've got mod access and whether they've got ACP access, as well as hiding and showing and reordering elements. I hope this has been useful. If you've got any questions, please hit me up. You can find me on the JCC, which is a Discord channel for Jcink creators. Feel free to message me if you want a link for that. It's a great community. And yeah, this has been a relatively short one, but hopefully very useful. So thanks guys, and I will see you next time. Cheers!